So glad to see you all. Welcome to the Wednesday Live. Here's what's going on in December, because it's almost December, right? Okay, first things first, Sunday, December 1st, tune in for the energy work. Talk, it's going to be at 11:15, 5 minutes, just tune in here. But later on at the store, we'll have the Gateway to the Gods class with the Blue Lotus Spicy Hot Cocoa. That's at noon. So that's a wonderful sample with some tech talk and then a guided meditation. Fun class, great to experience those herbs. And then at 3 p.m. on Sunday the 1st, the First Crohn's Club. I've been talking to folks. Laura, my guest for today, is going to be my co-host at that event. She can be in charge of that event. She'll be wonderful. But we've both been talking to lots of people about it. So come down. I don't care if you're 18. I don't care if you're 88. As long as you are feeling the weight of the world and are cranky enough to take some action, come on down and we'll figure out what that should look like.
Come on down, as they said in Price is Right. Come on down.
Yes, exactly. Tuesdays, of course, 5 minutes of meditation at 11:15 right here online. Tuesdays, magic. Wednesdays, you're here already for the big show. And Thursdays, we talk about herbs. And on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, I'm here extra late because I'll be teaching year 2 and year 3 in the herbal program. If you're interested, we started every September and it will probably be every Tuesday this coming fall. On Saturday the 7th, Herbalism Level 1 is all day starting at 10. We're on into our 3rd session of that, and the art opening is at 4 p.m. on that Saturday, the 7th of December. A sneak preview, I'm going to change my camera angle. Hang on. Look at that.
Ooh.
Isn't that gorgeous? That is Liz's art. Not this Liz, different Liz. She will be here for the opening. I'm very excited for the whole thing. And people are already buzzing about it. So come down for that. We'll have Nancy Antonucci's Tarot Lab on December 8th. That's the following Sunday. It is the 8th. If you took a photo of our poster when it said the 15th, I apologize, but it's the 8th. Always fun, always a class by donation, always packed. Get here about 5 minutes early for a good seat. All right. Coming up then on the 14th, Saturday, the Standing Stones will be here for the 3rd installment of their class series. Always popular, always a very full room as well. That is a free event. It is their pre-initiate training for their group. You don't ever have to join them to attend. You can just come and check it out and enjoy a lively conversation about the topic for that day. Reiki 1 will be Sunday the 15th. And on Saturday the 21st, the solstice, we are opening the book vaults downstairs. So if you want to see what's down there, what's up online at Amazon and ABE, and maybe buy some of those special used books for yourself or for gifts, that's the day to do it. And at 4 o'clock on the 21st, we will have Power Your Practice with Altar Plates. That's by Tim Cheesebrough. He's the guy who makes all the altar plates that we've got out there, the Ouija boards with the angelic seals of protection on them, and all of the sigils for the various goetic entities. Fascinating guy to speak with, really wants to make ceremonial magic accessible and easy to understand and do. It's a class worth checking out. What else have we got? Of course, we're closed on Thanksgiving Day, this Thursday, just so you know, and we'll be closed on the 25th, Christmas Day. And then we're coming back with Palmistry 101 on the 29th. That's at 4 p.m. That's another by donation class. It's by Chris, our palm reader. He's fantastic. Definitely, this is your only access to him right now because he's not coming in and doing the readings on Sundays. He's given that spot over to Tracy, who I'll get to in a moment. So your best bet to get your palm read and to learn more about palmistry is going to be to come to that 4 p.m. class on Sunday the 29th. That's our schedule for December. This should be a fun time. Let me let you know about our readers, our fabulous readers. So Sunday is Tracy. She's back. You might remember her as having owned a shop for many years here in the Twin Cities. She's absolutely wonderful. She's tarot and Theban runes, her own system, which is fascinating. On Monday, we've got Paul doing dream interpretation from 2 to 6. Ravenwolf is here on Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 3 to 6. Fridays, Winter is here doing readings from 1 to 5. They are amazing. And Saturday, Ravenwolf is back again from noon to 2 p.m. Fabulous readers, fabulous classes, fabulous events. Let me show you what's come in. got a little back order from one of our publishers, Red Will Weiser. Kenneth Johnson's The Craft of Sugarcane came in. So if you are interested in one of those contemporaries of Gerald Gardner, in this case it's Cochrane, this was his tradition and his approach. It will give you a different perspective on that early to middle 20th century development of Wicca that led to the big factions we have today, all the wonderful choices we've got now. And by Freda Barabbas, a Minnesota man, no longer here in the Twin Cities, but definitely a Minnesota person, mastering the art of ritual magic. This contains 3 volumes in one, and it goes over what you need to do to figure out how to put a ritual together well, in whether you want to be super formal or if you do want to add more ritual sense to what you're doing. It's a great read, I highly recommend. Now for fun stuff we've got, I also have to let you know, as you guys know, if you've been regular watchers, I order our best incense every week, pretty much. Fred Souls, best stuff on a stick. Yesterday we got an order. The day before we got an order. So what I placed 2 weeks ago and what I placed 3 weeks ago came in the last 2 days. So we're pretty well stocked up. So I'd come and grab what you want now. And I would also mention this stuff is so good that one of the things I have done with it in the past is when I'm wrapping gifts for people, I will stick like 1 or 2 sticks into the bow that I'm giving them. People love that. Few other things I wanted to point out. We've got these wonderful runes. I think I've shown them once before, but there's a reason. I have another reason. These wonderful runes, I'm told they're blacklight responsive by the local maker. So I've brought in some samples. There are, of course, a ton of runes associated with Norse deities, including, in this case, Bifrost, but also Hephaestus, Lilith, a host of other deities from around the world can be featured in these runes. They're beautiful, they're local, they're handmade. They do not come with a bag. So if you need a little bag for them, I'm going to recommend this being the perfect size. This will also hold one of the mini tarot decks, or this will hold a regular size tarot deck or these stones very easily. And I also wanted to show, because I only have a few left, and if you are whimsical, you'll love this. But if you're buying for that little girly girl, huge hit with my little niece last year when she was 5. So highly recommend. And if you're looking for runes and you're like, wow, I love these, but at $50, they're definitely our premium rune, it's okay, we got you covered. You can get some amethyst runes in a little bag. You might want to upgrade the bag, or some carnelian or some wood ones, and they're running under $20 a pop. So either I see you again. So I assume we have a better connection again. Okay, so I showed you guys wonderful runes, bags, books, incense. Now I really am looking forward to talking with Laura Hedlund. She is from Food Freedom Radio, which airs on AM950. You can hear me on that show, the second half of that show, this Saturday at 8 and this Sunday at 9. I caught a little bit of us last weekend because this is a rerun.
Yeah, and actually, I meant to. We aired it last week. It's available on podcast, but something came up, so I'm airing a different show this weekend.
Very cool.
Holidays, but we aired it last week and got a huge response on LinkedIn for some reason. But it was a great show, and we talked about anxiety and depression and different herbs that can help with that. So,
yeah, it was a good time. And honestly, I was in my car listening to it, and I flashed back to you as we were coming out of the studio, going, that was really good. And I'm thinking, it was just a thing. We just did a thing. And then I'm listening to it on the radio, and I'm like, I know that's really good.
It is really good, isn't it? Yeah.
So
I like it.
The portion I heard, I was like, oh, that was a really good conversation to have with you. I loved that. So not only was it fun to do, but I enjoyed listening to it later. So I recommend you all go check that out. And yeah, it's amazing sort of what herbs can do. But I want to know more about your show in general. I know you interview like soil scientists and farmers and all kinds of people involved in food and how we care for ourselves. So what inspired the show for you?
Well, several things. And so I'll start this way. So my husband's Finnish, and so he grew up with growing food. I mean, that was always, he was just that way. And then when we got together, I was like, and he was taking me to the co-op. It's like, really, I have to measure it from the bulk section? It seemed kind of weird. But so I've been doing that, but I credit him really for having that real deep roots. But when the crisis hit in 2008, all of a sudden I realized, what happens if we didn't have food? And so it was scary. I'm someone who's way into food, but I did help start a community garden, and I got more active in our yard, and I took a permaculture course. And so and I feel very fortunate. I've been in the same space, the land, for since 94 or something like that. So a long time in the same place. So we have 2 American chestnut trees. And the chestnuts almost went extinct. We have this beautiful song about roasting chestnuts on an open fire, but chestnuts provided so much food. And there were places where it's like you'd go harvest your chestnuts and you'd make enough for 10% of what you needed for that year. And it was, I mean, but it's so much more than just this transaction with food. It's a relationship with food and the relationship with the soil. And so fast forward now, I'm very fortunate that, we have blueberries and gooseberries and goji berries and a whole bunch of, things growing, and I'm in relationship with them. And I used to say I'm a student in permaculture. Now I say I'm a student of nature-led gardening, because part of it is trusting the world and how to go into that deeper relationship with reality. And that's not our cultural understanding of what real world means. Real world means water, soil, plants, each other, love, dogs playing, butterflies flying, birds singing. That's the real world. It's not like, this other stuff that we're trained on. But I've been with AM950 since for 20 years now. So I've been there for a long time, and I started it kind of spontaneously when Al Franken was here. A long line of very stubborn Swedes. My day job is to sell advertising, but I also believe that I think the reason I've been able to do that is that I don't see it as transactional. I see it as relational. So we've been very fortunate to have Seward Co-op. Seward Co-op is about relational. Woodland Stoves, about relational. And we're going to start with Affinity Credit Union, which we're very pleased to get them after all these years, but it's relational, right? So instead of just shopping at the big box stores or the one store, like I've never bought anything from that one dominant e-store player that everyone seems to mention. It's actually not a business. It's actually a terrain. I'll let people try to guess what I'm talking about, but it's a forest. It's not a business. Anyhow, and we're going to do a partnership now with somebody that does Cause Cart. And we've also really appreciated your support, Liz. And so how do we create this business ecosystem? Right. And so and it's really hard right now. And sometimes I know I can come off as it's all so simple, and it's not. It's very, 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 very difficult because rents are high. Why are rents high? Rents are high because of the way our tax code is. When I grew up in Minneapolis in the 70s, most of the homes in Minneapolis were owned by people who lived there. They were called homes. They were not tools of investment. They were homes for people to live and to care for their dogs or cats or turtles or fishes and maybe some humans. but and instead this investor class came in right after 2008. The same people who caused the system to crash, they came in and they bought up all those homes. So now we're all stuck. And I think that there has been a pattern in history, 1,000-year pattern, where you have a few people that dominate, and then you have the rest of us. And so the rest of us are beings, worthy beings, and we deserve chill space. We deserve a world that works for all. And so how do we create that? And how do we move that? And how do we manifest that?
Well, my answer to that, pre-Reagan era taxes.
Yeah, well, without a doubt. And that's exactly what happened historically, right? I mean, when people got mad, then all of a sudden you raise the taxes, and you also and I think Minnesota is very blessed by this. Actually, you had a group of very privileged people, because I don't want to demonize people who are raised with wealth either, because I think it's not like we're separate from them. We're all part of one.
Yeah, you don't have to be, because you're rich does not mean you have to behave in a particular way. There are Kennedys who've set up their inheritances as trusts and have continued to work as teachers and publishers and have middle-class jobs, what are traditionally considered to be middle-class jobs. They've deliberately opted out of their family wealth in a healthy way.
In Minneapolis, the lakes are public. There's public ways to walk around the lakes. And that's because those people didn't want to hoard. They wanted it to be part of a public area, our public parks. We have a lot of places in the Twin Cities that are stronger now because of values. So,
yes. Yeah. Well, that attitude of the state's budget is a moral document. I think that's one of the most important tenets of good politics and good management of resources for all of us as citizens.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I want to go back to one. We loved being on AM950, and hopefully we'll be there again. But it was a great experience for us. We just absolutely loved the process, and really support AM950 just as a concept. Always have, even way back when it was part of a network. But I wanted to get back to a word you used. It's a word that I also embraced at one point, because I don't know if everybody will know what it is, and that's permaculture. So my understanding of permaculture is setting up your green spaces in a way that requires as little labor as possible to get a yield that's still fruitful, but can still give you food. I'm not saying you're not going to have to weed. I'm just saying it's sort of taking companion planting to the nth degree and really applying good science to it. Is that your understanding?
Almost any word, the word depends on the interpretation, and music is our first language. But having said that, one of the simplest ways to think of permaculture is permanent culture, so trees and bushes. And so personally in our yard, we don't weed, and part of the reason we don't weed is one of the family members is really into sentient life. So how would you define anything as a weed or not a weed? And where do we know that? And so occasionally we will retransplant things and find different homes for things if they're invading a little bit. But yeah, so the blueberries have been there for a long time. They keep producing. The gooseberries have been there for a long time. The fruit and nut trees, they just keep growing. My favorite now is the peach trees. Now we are also having consequences from changing of weather. It's not a easy one done planted and you're going to get all this food. I mean, there's variations, and that's why diversity is so important, right? That nature's code is built on diversity. So for the first year, I'm not getting as much blueberries. So the berries just weren't doing as well this year, but I got better fruit. So, but yeah, so there's a lot of different technical definitions of permaculture. But one of the things, and if we do this on Crohn's Club, I'd love to just figure out how to do this. I mean, let's build food forest all over the place, and can we do this? Can we, and I mean, the one thing, I've got lots of raspberries. They're not necessarily the best, but maybe we can combine forces and buy some chestnuts and coordinate something to actually plant the chestnuts, and maybe even work with some city governments or parks to do that. And we can make a memorial trees. So we'll have a way of funding it, because make it, I don't know if we can make our pet memorials, make it legal to put your pet's ashes near a tree and mark it. And then so there can be some resources to help plant trees, or there's ways that we can be working in this.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, the American chestnut is a fascinating story. So
yes, it is. Well, and also just to cover the idea of what are my legal harvest rights in an urban environment. In Minneapolis, if those tree branches from my neighbor's yard go over the sidewalk, that fruit is free for me. I just have to go pick it. I can't go on their property. I can't pick what's over their land, but I can pick what's above me on the city sidewalk.
I mentioned Finland has a rule that anyone can harvest berries anywhere. There's no private property. You can do, at least it did when I last heard. So, I mean, yeah, but having, and people are starting to move that to let's, plant it in parks. And I know actually right now, the city of Minneapolis, in fact, I should get some more details about this because I did put a comment. If you put in the urban, because there are people that want to allow people to plant fruit trees on the boulevards. Well, some people in the city government think you need to get a permit before you plant the trees, and you need to pay for us to get a permit to plant the trees so that the nice roads are. And I agree that the roads need to be safe, so I don't want to be too dismissive of that. But I think it'd be better for society if we could have some more flexibility about planting fruit trees in the boulevards.
Yes. Yeah. Planting things that folks can use, that is a better source of our, better way to use our resources, because we want trees on those boulevards anyway. So
Right.
making sure we're planting things people can use and understand how to use them. Everybody knows how to use an apple. It's a little bit much to ask them to understand how to use and harvest correctly the inner bark of the white oak tree. Not that it's not lovely, not that it doesn't have wonderful properties. Got bad teeth? Oof, this there could be a best friend, but that's like several steps removed from, I just picked the apple that looked ripe and ate it as a snack today.
Right. And, apple trees do get a lot of bugs. So most of them, but peach trees, which the University of Minnesota has really come up with some great contender peach trees. And those you pluck, you eat, they're fantastic. They're only good for a few weeks, but they're so easy to eat right away. And I think the kids would just go crazy for them, and
bake up your little peach crumble, toss it in the freezer. You got dessert a month from now. It's fine. If you have too many, just use them up.
Yeah. What a great problem to have, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's real wealth.
Exactly.
Ultimately. That's much more important than cash in many ways. That I have this wealth of this food just that comes every year. My son loved to garden for quite a while. As just a little kid, he liked to get out there and dig in the dirt. We still have the hardiest oregano bush I've ever seen in my life. Some years we're active enough, we go out there and we harvest a whole bunch. We're like, would you like to make oregano pesto? Because I don't know what else you'll do with this much fresh oregano, but we already have oregano pesto at my house, so here you go.
Yeah.
Or like the mugwort you brought in when you were judiciously harvesting all the mugwort.
Right, because it is considered invasive that it goes. But I mean, the mugwort is not. It doesn't seem as invasive now. And so for Sunday, I can bring some more mugwort. I don't really know what we're going to be doing exactly on this Sunday, but I'm game to just kind of open up the space, and I can give some more mugwort and share the stories and just go around, because I think if America is on the verge of fascism, and I don't know, I don't want to, I am personally trying to minimize predictive fear. But as a clear observation, our democracy can be lost. Our rights over our body can be lost. Our rights to marry who we love can be lost. Our rights to just be who we are, our rights to privacy. There's so many rights that are endangered for so many people right now. And so the remedy to that has always been community and support of each other.
Yep. Yeah, and if we can develop that kind of network where we can choose how we want to take action, whether it's very hands-on, like buying chestnut trees and planting them as a project, or even if that's we simply get together and all of us buy one of these chestnut trees at a discount and stick them in our own yards if we have them. That works too. We'll figure out how to do that as we go. It really is going to depend on you guys and who comes to the meeting and how we want to step forward from there. I don't know what we'll get, so we can't really plan what the immediate goals are for that group, because it's going to be up to all of us. We're going to have to come together as a community to really figure out and talk out what we want to do. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
I don't think so either. I mean, planning is important in some contexts, so I don't want to diminish or be planning. But at the other hand, I think also spontaneity is highly resilient. It's the essence of creativity.
Well, and I'd much rather that we generate a solution collectively And then whoever has the talent or the knowledge or both to put something together, or a small group of us put something together, I think that that's probably the best way to go forward. But I don't know. We'll see. I did talk to some lovely folks at the Standing Stones group. I mentioned them having their third class on the 14th. So hopefully we'll be seeing some of the folks from Standing Stones there and a few of the other groups in town. But yeah, we'll see who comes and how we do with the wonderful Crohn's Club.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I've been reading and feeling is that the right actions need to feel joyful. So if it feels oppressive, wrong direction. If it feels joyful, right direction. I mean, let's simplify this whole damn thing, right?
Yes, exactly. It's honestly, it's exactly the way I feel about religion. It should be 10% challenge. There should be a little challenge in it. It helps us all grow, learn new skills, become better people. But 90% really should be joy. And if 90% of what you're doing isn't giving you some joy, let's talk about it, figure out what we need to change, or what we just need to stop. And I also think that philosophy is probably part of the Great Resignation. Sorry. But I think joy is important.
Well, and I said this with somebody just a few minutes ago, so I really liked it. There's this word philosophy kings, and like philosopher kings really create our society in so many ways. What about philosopher queens? And actually moving into, and so what that means in a practical level is that it's not about a hierarchy, it's about community and circles. It's not about pyramids, but circles. And it's about understanding as below, so above. So the richness of the soil, the richness of the cosmos, and being part of this great flow, and how we dance with that. So,
yes, yeah, how we navigate that boat, accepting the stream is going to move us. It's just going to move us. That's how time and the universe works. So, let's fix up those rafts. Let's, turn them into boats. Let's get them sturdy and ready to go forward.
Michael, row your boat ashore.
That's right. We'll just navigate those waters. It'll be good. It'll be very good. Well, I was curious to know what you did in your last life before AM950. What got you to AM950? How did you land there?
So I have kind of an eclectic background. I went to Edison High School, so not too far from you, I should say that. I graduated in 1980. I got a degree in journalism, and I was also at KBEM, which was radio station. I went to there as part of that Edison experience. I worked as a television reporter in Mason City, Iowa. I came back here and I fell into Paul Wellstone's first campaign. And so at the time, no one thought Paul Wellstone could win. It was Bosch, which is $6 million against whatever Paul Wellstone, and we won that. And then I didn't get any credit, but that's cool. And then I took on, I went to David Mingy's campaign and we won that. No one was expecting David Mingy to win, but we won that. Some people thought it was even more of an upset than Paul Wellstone's. Also in that time, I did some consulting work. I worked with the Democrats and Republicans that were working together to promote caucuses. So I did this Bob and Todd show where we promoted Caucus 92, and we had Jesse Ventura recording our PSAs. I mean, that was pretty wild. I also worked on as a media consultant on Health Right, which is now Minnesota Care. So I had that deep political couple years, 5 years as a public relations director at the Girl Scout Council of St. Croix Valley, a 25,000 member organization. Stayed home. Thought I destroyed my career because I was staying home with my daughter, who's precious and dear to me. And then I stumbled on this job 20 years ago. I heard the ads right when my daughter was starting kindergarten. So that's kind of the route.
That's fantastic. What good timing for you. And yeah, I think it's interesting that people, when they step away to raise a child, they think of it as just the destruction of their career. And I guess I was very fortunate in that I had a lot of support from my employer, which at the time was Roger, the founder of Negus Books. But I got to save up my 1099 pay and then have it paid out to me while I was gone on an extended maternity leave. My position was held for me. People covered work for me. And I did some work from home as well. So that kind of support, I think, is important from employers. It's part of being in the community, and it's part of accepting that the workspace is a communal effort. And if you value the people, you adjust for their needs.
Well, and what I want to say the better word, there's a better word for this than just the capitalism, but it's like, how stupid. I mean, what is life about? What's the economy for? It's about raising children. And it's like we were so conditioned to be objects instead of beings. Like, for instance, our English language is predominantly a noun-based language, whereas indigenous languages tend to be a verb-based language. I know someone's writing a book called Mothering the New Economy, but yeah, so mothering and it is actually tragic that so many people are experiencing so much stress. And you bring a new human into this world, we need a community, we need a group of people that are all together supporting that, and not this I mean, it just breaks my heart to think of how much stress people are experiencing. It's a waste. And kids, then these kids that are raised in this stress, and then we wonder why our society, why there's crime, and why people are all freaked out. It's like, well, they're freaked out because it's about money instead about love and shelter and food and how we care for each other, and we're blowing the planet all. So, and I think I will say, just so a few people can have more and more money, the imbalance of money is just crazy. So it's just not and with this economic with this recent change, I mean, a big fancy word for it is kleptocracy, but when a few people own more of the resources, that's when life sucks. And life is better when more and more of us, we all do better when we all do better. It's not that complicated.
It really isn't. You're absolutely right. Paul Wellstone was right when he said it. And part of the reason for that, to me, on a very practical level, is just the idea that that richest person who has only lived their own life and only has their own experiences cannot think of all of the experiences of all of us. That's why we can't have just them make a decision, because if just that person makes the decision, or just a small group of people are allowed to make those decisions, they will inevitably make decisions that are incredibly harmful for some people that we would all be fine if that wasn't the decision. And you can't know that without the input. You get the input by including the community. It's that straightforward to me.
And I think it's time to maybe bring in a little bit of religion. And just to be clear, I identify myself as non-identifiable. That feels right to me. But I did read, and I think in this time where sort of a nationalistic Christianity is taking over the globe, I think the work of Leo Tolstoy, which he's well known for War and Peace, but he considered his best book to be a book called The Kingdom of Heaven is Within. I listened to it on audio tape, but it was actually, and so that book really influenced Gandhi's movement. And he used the phrase Christian anarchy, which basically means, to those who are, basically means of the living philosophy of Christ, love one another, give the poor money. If you cannot give the poor money, give them good thoughts, which is actually from a Muslim. That's from the Quran. But I one thing that Leo Tolstoy does in that book that is he talks about that concept. It's a nice answer in my mind to Christian nationalism, because it's talking about not controlling and not domination and not power over and not military power, but actually kind of raising up from some core self. And I think that's probably aligned with a lot of the pantheism or indigenous religions.
Oh, I think so too. That taking that into account and taking into account that everyone can have a role that they can excel at, that they can be proud of. To me, this gets back to my favorite Ruskin quote. I think I've said it on your show, which is that labor or life without labor is, I'm going to forget the quote. Not good, that's not the right words, but not good, not a happy place to live, and that labor without art is brutality.
Oh,
I don't think it means a thing without the second half of that quote. Yeah.
Labor without art is brutality. And you think about how many people are stuck in dead-end jobs that they absolutely hate. that they
Yeah.
don't have any agency for, and they feel really trapped. I have to be
Right.
here because of the health insurance. I have to be there because of that, and my rent's due, and I'm working every day, and I'm further behind, and I don't have any gifts for the kids. So
It's sort of an amazing place to be, especially when by some measures, the difference between the wealthy and the middle class has increased every year of my life.
right, that has changed during my life too. That has changed a lot during my life. But yeah, so I think one thing you said, I want to say that we need a place where everybody belongs. And I think that's true in nature, right? I mean,
Right.
we may say that milkweed, we considered milkweed as a weed. That's why butterflies are in trouble today, is because the human culture labeled it as wrong, as a weed. Maybe like a Christian nationalist would label this is right and this is wrong. But that's not the living world. That's not the reflection of the divine that lives in reality.
Exactly.
Reality is everyone belongs. You don't have to march to a particular way or
And I know that gets tough when you get down to the individual layer, because not everybody is going to fit in where you or they think they should or could. And taking the time to figure that out, I think that's one of the challenges that life gives us. You got to find a place where you get to use your talent and a place where those talents are appreciated. And this might mean you go through a few places and spaces socially and work-wise for a few years. And I think you have to give yourself permission to do that, to find a space that can be home. And because it's home when you're 23, does not mean it's going to be home when you're 45. You might find yourself transitioning naturally, but it's about finding those good spaces and places so that you can live your life with some integrity. You get to contribute to society. And that, by the way, includes people who just stay at home and raise families. That is an incredibly important set of jobs. And it's more than one job, by the way. And if you've got more than two kids, it's more than a full-time job.
it
Even with two
is.
kids, yeah, you're pushing it on that line. Studies have been done, I'm just saying. So yeah, I think this kind of thoughtfulness to how we approach how we spend our days, whether it's compensated labor or uncompensated labor. I always view Thursdays for me, I'm not at the shop, so I'm doing laundry, I'm getting groceries, I always just call that my non-paid labor day. That's, that's what that day is. It's still work. I work very hard on that day. Nobody pays me for it. That's the only difference. It does not mean it's valueless work. It's how my family survives in many ways.
Exactly.
So, yeah, taking the
Not
time to
this,
be thoughtful and deliberate about that, how
yeah,
we
not to
contribute.
separate. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. I just not the separation. Here's my work life. Here's the other life, but those merging of those two. But one of the things I was going to bring up, and I don't know if hopefully you can still hear me. This Crohn's Club. So the other thing I feel an obligation for, and this is a tough one, but how do we build that economy where people can
Talking
more easily
great.
find their home?
Yeah, exactly. So we're just about out of time. So, and we went blank. We went down for a moment again. So hopefully if y'all are still here, and we will see you next time. Of course, we need a secret word. How about Chrome?
Crohn's.
So everybody out there, secret word for this week is crone. I'll leave a note by the register for the staff, and they'll know what to do if you tell them crone. With that, Laura, my thanks. This was a fantastic conversation, and
Awesome.
hopefully we'll get to do it again at some point. But for now, everybody have a great week and blessed be.
Have a great week. Happy Thanksgiving.